The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. It is Friday, June the 10th, and we're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Studios of Money Radio, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. If this is the first time you tuned into our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. How do they do that? They do that by listening right here to Money Radio 1510, 105.3 FM, and the internet, moneyradio1510.com. And what makes our show great is our guests that we bring, and today's no different. I have in the studio with me, first-time guest here to Health Futures and a friend of mine. I got Dave Voepel. He is the CEO, and he is the CEO of the Arizona Healthcare Association. So,
hey, Bob. How are you?
Good, Dave. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
It is good to have you here in the studio with me and really to talk about the work that we do with older adults.
Yeah.
But before we get started, I want to give a really big shout-out to my dad, who has been a guest here on the studio with me, Sheldon Roth. He's otherwise known as Noodles. He is recovering from having a little heart procedure, and I want to give a big shout out to my dad.
I feel like when you say something like Noodles that you have to tell a little bit of a story about how he got Noodles.
Yeah, he's not in the mafia, I will tell you that.
Okay.
But truly, since you asked, his name is Sheldon, and a friend of his gave him the nickname, and it is Sheldon spelled backwards if you drop the H.
Oh, nice. Oh,
but
that's
but
clever.
it fits him so well.
I like it.
He's Noodles.
Yeah.
Noodles has been here in
Awesome.
the studio with me.
Huge
So
shout out to Noodles.
So big shout out to a speedy recovery.
There you go. Awesome.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate you being here, and
Absolutely.
we are in alignment because we serve this population that is just growing by leaps and bounds. And while we're still in this pandemic called COVID, the true pandemic is aging.
Agreed.
And you and I have talked about this. I mean, our government keeps kicking the can down the road. We are aging at such a rapid rate. I mean, between now and 2050, the 85 and older population is going to triple.
Yep.
And, we need to figure out how to solve for this.
Yeah, what do they call it? The silver tsunami is coming, the wave of older folks.
It's here.
And I want to say to everybody, in the other 49 states, that you want to see the beginning of the tsunami, it's right here in Arizona. I mean, we're the beginning of it. However, this tsunami is not the same as what people think it is. They think, well, older adults, they're not able to get around. They have they have acuity issues. They have chronic pain. They have all sorts of stuff. I don't know about that, Bob. You look around Phoenix, go out to Surprise and drive your car and sit at a stoplight, and you'll be the only car there because you'll be surrounded by golf carts and seniors in golf carts looking very tan and very active. And that's part of the silver tsunami.
No doubt.
And they want services. We have baby boomers, we have the next generation coming in, and they all want their types of services, and they all want them individualized.
They do. And let's not forget how many are living alone.
Right.
We 1/3 of our population nationally, 65 and older, lives home alone. And in some states, it's as high as almost 50%.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy. And sometimes they live alone because they want to. I mean, granted, that happens. Other times they live alone because they don't have any family. and or friends.
Or they were widowed or widowers.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So when they get into a state system like an Altex or a Medicaid type system, and they start to get into the hospital arena or even the nursing home, and they don't have family, that family acts as an advocate for them, because we've all been to doctor's appointments where we hear the first couple of words coming out of the doc's mouth, and then after that it's like we space out, because it's like we're concentrating on that because it's really serious.
It's kind of like Charlie Brown. Wah, wah, wah,
Exactly.
We don't want to hear it, and we don't want to know.
That's right. That's why a lot of managed care companies and a lot of doctors' offices are putting in patient advocates. You know, there's a great sense to that. But our government doesn't fund that piece of it. You know, they're just there to fund a certain piece, and that's it, which is fine. That adds more cost. I understand that. There's a lot of restrictions there.
Well, and the one part they don't really cover is the work that my agency does in so many, and
Correct.
That's the in-home care support, long-term care support.
Correct.
These are, some refer to it as non-medical, non-clinical, non-skilled.
Yep.
No, it's very skilled. I mean, the fact is that if we don't help these folks with activities of daily living,
That's right.
they're going to end up in an acute situation.
They'll end up in the hospital.
They will. And they may die.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's our job to keep them clean, cared for, comfortable, safe, and fed, and within compliance with their doctor's orders, taking their meds at the right time,
Right.
in the right doses.
Exactly.
And without that, and the government doesn't pay for that.
No.
The federal government doesn't. Medicaid does pay some
and
of that.
that's a partnership between the state and the Fed, of course. But they don't pay what is needed to be paid.
No. They definitely don't. And, for our listeners, we're jumping right in, Dave. So, I mean, you and I are very comfortable with one another.
Yeah.
But I want our listeners to know, and this segment goes by really fast, so we'll get into a lot of different topics in the second, third, and fourth segment. But explain to our listeners what the Arizona Healthcare Association is, so they really know who you are representing here today.
Sure. We advocate for skilled nursing facilities and assisted living communities throughout the state. So what does that mean by advocacy? Well, we are down at the legislature trying to bring awareness to nursing homes for all intents and purposes. We call them skilled nursing facilities because in Arizona there's only 146. Arizona is a home and community-based state. Unlike the other 49 states, that's what we're governed by, is the home and community-based, or HCBS model. And so the skilled nursing side of things isn't as large, but yet it's a part of the continuum that is much needed. So, for instance, if you have a knee repair or
a hip,
like I just had 6 weeks ago.
I can't believe it. You are looking great.
I can't either. It's amazing. And if you have something like that and you need a rehab stay, Medicare will pay for that short rehab stay, and you'll be in a skilled nursing facility to be able to get that. On the other side of the coin, Medicaid pays for a long stay. So if you're someone and you don't have the money, then you can apply for Altex. You can apply to Access and to our Medicaid payor, and they will pay for a long stay, meaning something over 20 days. And then you're able to stay in the facility. But that's if you have chronic conditions. You have high acute chronic conditions. That's not for somebody who just needs a place, needs a home.
Right.
The nursing homes of yesterday have changed into higher acuity hospital-like models.
They're rehab hospitals.
Hospitals.
You don't go there, in the olden days, and you and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
In the olden days, when somebody got older and the loved ones, family members felt like they couldn't stay home any longer, they would say, we're sending Grandpa to a rest home.
Right, exactly.
We're sending him to. Why did he have to rest?
Yeah.
Why did she have to rest? Grandma,
In fact, we found out that that's the worst thing for them.
Exactly.
We don't want people in bed. I had my hip surgery. 2 hours after that surgery, they have you up and walking around. You have to do a complete lap on the hospital floor before they let you go home. And then they let you go home, and it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm really scared.
Now that I know you like I do, I'm sure you did more than one lap. You probably did a couple laps.
Oh yeah, had to. It's like I'm showing this baby off.
No, but when you think about it, I mean, the old nursing homes, and certainly we have listeners that remember those old nursing homes. you would walk in and you would get that ammonia stench.
Yes.
And that was the stench that was typically urine. And you know what? Today, that's not the same. Today,
And sadly, Bob, there are still some places out there that just they need to get it together. And, they're probably part of our membership, and we try and help them do that. Because, and I tell everybody, I mean, I always have people come, family members or whomever, and they say, how do I find a really good skilled nursing facility or nursing home? And it's like, I always tell them, walk in and follow your nose. If it smells bad, you turn around, you leave. You don't go there. You don't put a loved one there. It's very simple. So, you just follow your nose, and then from there, if everything smells good, then you continue to walk in and you talk to the administrator and you talk to the staff and you see how things are going. And there are so many good places out there that, I mean, the caregivers and the care they give, they just do an awesome job. And those are the places that people have to find.
would you recommend even talking to some of the residents or some of the patients there too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to find out
family members.
Yeah, find out how the care is.
Yeah, definitely.
And then lastly, I think you can go out to the CMS website, right?
You can, yeah. CMS, look at their 5-star rating, look at all that good kind of stuff.
And you just go to cms.gov
Yep.
to go find that?
Yeah, CMS, it's medicare.gov.
Medicare.gov, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's what it is, yeah.
Well, it's Friday.
It is.
And
that's
it's
for
hard to
sure.
believe. And it's going to be 110 degrees.
Woohoo.
Woohoo! And we got a little music coming in, thanks to
Yeah.
James. I told you it goes fast, Dave.
Yep,
So we're
sure
down
does.
one segment. We got 3 more to go. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and I got Dave Voepel here. He is the CEO from the Arizona Healthcare Association. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You know, the safety of older loved ones during this pandemic has posed the greatest challenge for many families. Hi, this is Bob Roth, managing partner of Cypress Home Care Solutions. I know many of you are nervous to choose a communal living option for your elderly loved ones these days, but home care remains the safest alternative. For over 25 years, Cypress Home Care has served our community, and today we continue to help families by placing high-quality caregivers into their homes that follow the strictest CDC safety and testing guidelines. Cypress Home Care is here for them, and we're here for you. Bathing, meal preparation, medication reminders, and so much more, whether it's a couple times a week or every day. So if you want to keep your loved ones safe and at home, call us today at 602-264-8009 or look us up on the web at cypresshomecare.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you are just tuning in, we're in our second segment here, and I got Dave Voepel. He is the CEO of the Arizona Healthcare Association. And if you missed the first segment, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. Third button down is radio show. You'll catch this show and many, many more. So in the first segment, we talked a little bit about what the Arizona Healthcare Association is, and they represent 146?
Well, no, there's 146 skilled nursing. We call them SNFs. You know,
SNFs.
Everybody's got to have their own acronym, right?
Oh, yeah,
So we got ALFs, we got SNFs, we got all that fun stuff.
ALFs, by the way, are assisted living.
There you go. And so we have 131 skilled nursing facilities in our membership, and then another 50 or 60 assisted living communities throughout the state.
Got it. So you got about 200.
About 200.
200 members. And you represent them. And what you talked about in the first segment is advocacy.
Correct.
And it is so important for our legislators. And in our state, what's really frustrating is that these guys get elected every 2 years, right?
Sure.
So no sooner do they get in office, they're already working on their campaign to get back into office, right?
That's exactly right. That's the very next day, to be honest with you.
It is.
I mean, there's a reason why the federal government was set up. You know, our founding fathers said we need to make the U.S. Senate or the upper chamber, they need to be elected every 6 years. They don't need to be worried about getting elected the following year.
Right.
So there's a reason for that.
No, I believe so too. And you know, it's important for you and certainly for us in home care to educate, because that's what we do. We get in front of our state senators and our state representatives so they can understand the value of the services that we provide. But guess what? They have the keys to the monies that we get paid too.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But you're on the forefront. What you do, you're on the forefront of what the nation is trying to get done with home care, because we've come to a realization just over the last probably 7 to 10 years maybe, that people want to stay home. And if they have the ability to stay home, why can't we pay for that? Right. Why do we need to send them to a skilled nursing facility or an assisted living community
or a rest home, like I was talking about?
A rest home, exactly. Yeah. So let's change these models around and provide home care for folks and pay for it.
Right.
I mean, novel idea, right?
Exactly. You know? And not everybody can go home right from an acute setting like hospital, right? So as you described the evolution of long-term care facilities, you know, these SNFs are really becoming more rehab hospitals.
Right.
So you get discharged from the hospital and you can't go home directly. You're going to go there for up to maybe 20 days.
Sure.
So that you can get your strength back, so that you can do those activities of daily living at home. And if you need assistance at home, that's when you engage a home care agency like us.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, to give you an example, my dad, he's a big guy. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You know, we're going to try to bring him home. But, I mean, you know, if we're not able to, I mean, he's going to need to go into a rehab hospital to get his strength back, to get occupational therapy, to get physical therapy, to get all of those services that CMS does pay for.
Right.
So he can gain his strength so he can get back home.
Yep. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Thank you.
Another
another acronym. Exactly.
We're full of them. Every industry is, you know.
So as we talk about advocacy, before we do a deeper dive, tell me some of the things you guys are working on right now.
Well, for us, it's always about reimbursement. You know, we have to work on. I was in our nation's capital Sunday through Tuesday, and the biggest thing was, can you believe that CMS is wanting to cut us? And so we're talking about why are you cutting us after we're going through this pandemic? We're not done with it yet. We're going to be the last ones out of the pandemic, and now you want to do a cut. Now I understand the reasoning behind what they have to do. They were told by Congress in 2019 when they introduced this new reimbursement program to make it budget neutral. They spent an extra $17 billion on this reimbursement program. So now they want their money back. I get it. I totally get that. But do you have to take it in 1 year? Right. So we'll give them the money back. Can we put it over 3 years maybe? I mean, Can we do a little installment loan action here going on? And Congress is all about saying yes. They're all about that. And that's why we were up on the Hill advocating for that. So hopefully CMS will change their mind and they'll take it out in 3 payments.
So when you do go to, because I do advocacy work in Washington.
Sure.
So you go and visit our U.S. senators and U.S. representatives that are there, right?
Correct.
And,
yes.
and your counterparts in other states are doing the same. You guys are unified in that approach.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Now, it was interesting because when you have somebody like Matthew McConaughey on the Hill with you, it's like, oh, can we get him to talk about our issues?
Yeah, he kind of sucks the air out of the room.
He sucks the air out of the room, but he also creates a buzz because it's like, oh my gosh, if he's up here doing this, then we're doing something too. It's like, this is really cool, you know? Yeah. And by the way, where is he? Can we get an autograph?
Now, look, he's very passionate. I mean, he's from that town.
He is.
And he's a gun owner and a gun supporter too. So
big time.
So
he's very powerful.
And I will say this, I typically really get turned off by actors and people doing stuff like that. But,
me too.
You know, I kind of, you know, I didn't have that feeling with him.
Yeah,
because it was real for him. He knew those families. He was from that town.
He was born there.
And you know what? He didn't really bash guns because he's a gun owner and he's very supportive of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was pretty cool. And the whole buzz it created while you're up on the Hill was just pretty fun to see.
All right, so back to long-term care.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So you spent like 3 or 4 days there.
Yeah, 3 days. Yeah.
And new hip, you were walking on it?
Yep, I did 15,000 steps on concrete, which is really hard on the joints, and I had no pain whatsoever. And I was so thankful I had that new hip because that titanium worked a heck of a lot better than my regular hip.
I can't believe 6 weeks later you were doing that. The technology and innovation that has happened in medicine is phenomenal.
It's amazing. I told the doctor, shout out to him, Dr. Shane Martin. I mean, that dude is a rock star.
Dr. Shane Martin.
There you go. North Scottsdale,
North
right?
Scottsdale.
Right in this area, too.
All right, there you go. A shameless plug.
Shameless plug, exactly. And he got me back up and running, and he was just like, you'll not have any problems with this, and you'll just zoom right through it. And sure enough.
Maybe we can get him to sponsor a show.
Yeah, there you go. We say his name enough times, right?
So I just out of curiosity, because I do some work in Washington, did you get a chance to meet with Senator Sinema or Kelly?
So Sinema's office is still closed to the public.
Okay.
But they've been so helpful to us over the past 3 years that we're zooming in with them this next week. Yeah. So we'll meet one-on-one with them. Well, our whole group will meet with them, with the office there. And then Kelly's office was very helpful as well. We got to meet with Kelly's office, and that worked out really well. So it was good. Yeah.
Nice. And I know the person that Sinema has, the healthcare
Sylvia
person.
Lee.
Sylvia Lee. She's amazing.
There's another shout out.
Oh, yeah.
And she is another rock star.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't sleep.
No.
I mean, for being tied in with government, she is amazing. I can't say it enough.
Well,
I probably said it too much, but
I know how passionate she is about the work we do. I imagine she is the same for you.
Same exact way. Yeah, same exact way. It's crazy. And the senator she's grateful to have her on our team.
Oh, no doubt.
So it's pretty neat.
No doubt. So you do advocacy work, and reimbursement is what you were talking about. You gotta give back a little bit of money,
right?
And it sounds like they were very in tune with the 3-year payback,
yeah,
rather than do it in 1 year.
Yeah, they are. But you got to go through rules process. You got to go through the whole process of Washington D.C., which is a lot more cumbersome as designed than in the states or local government. And we work through the process, and we'll see what happens.
And how about advocacy here in the state? What do you got going on?
Well, we've got the same thing going on. We have reimbursement happening. Right now, the state legislature hasn't crafted a budget yet. Now, theoretically, they've got until June 30th because that's the end of the fiscal year. So it's getting close. It's June 10th. So they have another 20 days to come up with something.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to go into July. I mean, you got one senator, I understand, that is
off the reserve. Well,
yeah. He's not
playing.
Yeah, he's not going to be playing for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pick up on a little bit of advocacy. We'll pick up on a lot of the other work that Arizona Healthcare Association is doing.
Sounds good.
Dave Voepel here. He's the CEO of Arizona Healthcare Association. Stick around. We got 2 more segments. It's halftime. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our second half. And if you are just tuning in, I have got Dave Voepel here in the studio with me. He is the CEO of the Arizona Healthcare Association. They represent 146 skilled nursing homes.
131.
131. That was close.
200 members.
200 members in assisted living.
There you go.
And you know what? If you want to learn more about them, go out to their website. It's pretty robust. I'm taking a look at it right now. It's azhca.org.
Yep.
And you can find everything you ever needed to know about them and more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. And we have a convention coming up, so you're going to see a lot of good stuff about that.
And when's your convention?
July 18th through the 20th.
And where's that at?
The Sheridan downtown. Shameless plug.
Oh, nice.
I know. Yeah.
Nice.
So we sold out the exhibit hall about a week ago, so we are completely sold out. So we're just taking registrations.
Wow, and they redid that Sheraton.
They did. It is gorgeous.
Oh,
it is absolutely.
It was gorgeous before.
It was. They took a year off during COVID.
Right.
I mean,
shut it down,
completely shut down, and they rehabbed the whole thing.
Wow.
And it is amazing. So we get to use the space.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very
Should
nice.
be great.
Well, if you missed our first half, you can catch our interview together up at our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button, third button down is radio show. You'll catch this first half of our show. And obviously the second half and about almost 500 that we've been bringing to you for the last 9 years. I can't believe it's taken me this long to get you here. So
Well, I can't believe you've done 500 shows.
I know. Can you
Holy
believe it?
cow. I mean, you don't look that old. 500 shows, it looks like, oh, man, he's been doing this for a while.
It does. It does. Well, that's why I got the gray hair.
Yeah.
For
Well, at least you have hair, so don't be bragging now.
You know what? I gotta take all the compliments I can get these days. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hear you. No doubt.
So in the first half, we talked a lot about advocacy, and the biggest issue you are tackling is obviously reimbursements, and obviously federal as well as state reimbursements, and we talked a little bit about the state, and they haven't got their budget done yet, and what's it called, sine when they
Sine die.
sine die,
Yeah,
sine
it's
die
Latin for final, for the end.
And just so everyone understands, sine die usually happens sometimes it's like at the end of April.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's early May.
So Arizona is one of those great Western states that likes to, put different things and say we're going to be done within 100 days.
Right.
Because we're not a full-time legislature, but yet we are a full-time legislature. We act like it, even though we go for 4, 5, 6 months out of the year. But that's pretty good compared to other states.
It is.
They don't pay nearly as well as other states. So, the legislator might get paid $25,000 here, whereas in Illinois they're getting paid $80,000.
Right.
It's more of a full-time gig there. So here it's definitely part-time.
Well, they have to have real jobs.
They do.
Because they could never sustain, any type of lifestyle just living on $26,000.
Exactly. Yeah. In this day and age, they could only drive to the Capitol a couple of times, and then have to go fill up gas, and they'd be done.
Yeah. Don't get me started. I mean, my wife and I were thinking about, and we're still thinking about going over to L.A. next week because that's where our daughters live. And, and we were going to take the big SUV, and I think I calculated, because gas is $7 over there right now. So I calculated it could cost us as much as $500 in gas.
That's crazy.
That is just crazy.
Oh my gosh.
I think we could do it cheaper just flying and renting cars.
Yeah, exactly. That's for sure. Or doing the Uber thing, I mean, heck.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So we talked a lot about advocacy, and one of the things I really want to spend this second half in, and you've been doing this for a while, and you shared with our listeners the evolution of really these skilled nursing facilities, as we call them, SNFs.
Right.
They're more akin to rehabs, and people aren't staying there very long. And by the way, these SNFs, they're really nice. I mean, they have the same striker beds that are in the hospitals. And they have all the same equipment, and a lot of them have physical therapy in there, and whether they're doing it themselves or they're contracting it out. I mean, all the resources and stuff are right there to get you back up on your feet and get you back home.
Exactly. I mean, I could name a half a dozen between the 17 and our area right in here where we're at in the studio, and that just do a phenomenal job on the whole rehab side. Now, that's what they do, though. They're short stay rehab centers.
Right.
They're post-acute centers, what we refer to them as. The long stay is a different model altogether because people are there for a year or two in some cases. More than likely, what happens in those long stay settings is that somebody's there for 30, 40, 50 days, and they're getting better. Hopefully they're getting better to where they can go back home.
Right.
And that's been the push from CMS and our federal government over the last several years. So it's going to continue going that way. And fortunately, Arizona is at the forefront of it. We have, as I mentioned before, we have a home and community-based model.
Right.
If you look at our counterparts in the Midwest, for instance, we have, 8 million people in this state? Roughly. Growing 100,000 every year.
Yeah.
Illinois has roughly 11 million, so a little bigger, but yet they have 800 skilled nursing facilities.
800.
Yeah, and 500 assisted living communities. Whereas we have 3,000 assisted living communities licensed and 146 skilled nursing facilities. So it's totally flipped around. And that's, the further east you go, the more it's built up on the nursing home side. The more west you come, because obviously we haven't been around for as long and we don't have that same model, and we've been resistant to the whole Medicaid piece. We didn't get Medicaid in here until the 80s, whereas other states had them in the 60s. So that gives us the opportunity to take another look at what we can do better. And I think we do a lot of things pretty well here.
No, I tend to agree. I really do. I mean, the fact is that we want people to get back home.
Correct.
And we should. I mean, that's where people want to be. You said
That's
that
right.
at the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things that, I think that we see in the future, and this is one of the conversations I want to, have, and we're starting to do it, I think, because we are really the tip of the spear right here in Arizona, because we are doing things now. We have such an aging population. We're probably about 4 or 5 years ahead of most states in terms of where we're at in terms of aging. How do we do this? There's been a lot of talk about hospital home and, bringing healthcare to home. One of the biggest challenges, you talk about Chicago, right, or Illinois,
Right.
the number of long-term care facilities. Look, we know healthcare, we have problems with staffing.
Right.
And, we don't have enough docs, we don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough therapists, we don't have enough caregivers. But you look at these communities and, they don't just have clinicians.
Right.
They also have food service.
Exactly.
They also have housekeeping.
Yes.
I
You got to
mean-
have those to operate.
Yeah.
I mean, very integral part of all of these communities.
And we're standing up new ones every day here.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my goodness, where are they going to find the people?
Right.
Because
exactly.
I can't find the people.
Yeah. It's
And-
nuts.
And your current members are having a hard time getting people.
We sure are. Yeah.
So that's a big problem to solve. But I mean, I think, I want to take our conversation really talking about where do we lie in the future? I mean, how do we keep that home and community-based model that our state of Arizona wants, but be able to deliver high-quality care in that home? And we know we need a short stay in a skilled nursing facility for sure,
Right.
because there are a lot of people that just can't make that transition all the way home.
Correct.
How do we do that? And how do we make that hospital home or care at home successful?
Well, I think on one hand, you have to be able to have the flexibility in any of your regulations and any of your laws to be able to shift things around. There's always new ideas coming out there, right? And so being able to, and technology has been helping us along. For instance, okay, so I got a new hip 6 weeks ago.
Crazy.
Nuts. I was home, let's see, I went in there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was at home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was up and walking, and they tell you the more you walk, the better off you're going to be, which is totally true. I'm a huge believer in that, right? You got to do stretching, got to do all that kind of stuff. I was able to go home. What if, and I told the doctor after I got done with that, I saw him a couple of days after that, and I said, you know what, you guys are going to be doing this plug and play method. I mean, in the future, I see hips, joint replacement and things like that. Bob, think about this. They might show up in a Sprinter van and they get you all prepped on one end of the van, and then they plug in your hip on the back end of the van and go put you back in your house later. I don't think we're that far from that.
Or an assembly line, right?
An assembly line.
Put
They
you
just-
on this.
Yeah, I mean, robots will be helping out. We got all sorts of stuff like that. They're doing it now.
Yeah, they are.
So why not in a mobile setting? You know?
And you're a great, testimonial of
Sure.
how you can do this and get right back up on your feet.
But it just goes to show how much at home means a lot to both of our businesses.
Well, as you can hear the music,
Yep.
we're down 3 segments. We got one more to go. Stick around. Dave Voepel is here in the studio. We're talking about the future of care
Yes.
for our state. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our last segment, our 4th segment. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Studios, June 10th. And I've got Dave Voepel here in the studio. He is the CEO of the Arizona Healthcare Association. And I want to give a big plug to him. He's got a website out here, azhca.org. He's got a big trade show coming up in July over at the Sheraton.
Yep.
Sold out from
Headed
the
down.
exhibitors.
Yep. Yeah, it's good. It should be a pretty good show, pretty good program.
Oh, yeah.
As long as we get the people to show up, you know.
18th through the 20th.
Yep. With all the staffing issues and things like that, we're really worried about registration. There are nursing facilities out there that don't have the staff, and so when people try to, get admitted there, they can't take some of them,
right?
Because they don't have the ability to take them.
And that makes it even hard for those people that you are putting this format together, this trade show for, that you want them to come so they can learn and socialize and network.
Yeah,
where
learn about new things that are going on and all good kind of stuff like that.
And because they have staffing issues, they can't come.
Right.
That's right. That makes it really, really hard.
It does. And sadly, there are some facilities out there that are taking people, but yet they don't have the staff. And it's just like, doggone it, but that's the pressure that we put on folks, right, whether it's monetary or whether it's staffing or just whatever the case might be.
Well, I can
serious pressure.
I can tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than helping an older adult.
Sure.
And I mean, I look at every one of our clients as really like a good book. They've lived incredible lives, and
amazing.
And we owe that to them to provide exceptional care in the final years of their lives. Sometimes months, sometimes weeks, but the coolest thing, and when you really think about it, is you and I, not you personally, but the members that you represent, we get to be part of the final chapters of these people's lives. They've lived incredible lives.
And the other cool part is the caregivers that are there, the nurses, the staff that are in and taking care of folks. I always say it's mission-driven work. You have to want to be there to take care of the elderly folks. Otherwise, there's no sense in you being there, because it's just not going to, it's going to make things worse.
Of course.
And it's just mission-driven work, and trying to find that person nowadays has gotten a lot more difficult. And it's a struggle, but when you find the right person, the right CNA or the right caregiver, they're worth their weight in gold. It's amazing. They just do a tremendous job.
Well, and I think more than anything, what they are looking for, especially the surveys that we have done, is they're looking to be appreciated.
Absolutely.
And respected.
Yeah.
Because for so many years, they weren't. They were given these menial jobs, and they were just, not respected.
It's like, here you go do that. Okay, thanks. Right. But they're not even getting a thank you.
But to be an employer of choice, you've got to be that person. You've got to be respecting them. You've got to be giving them recognition and accolades when they go above and beyond.
One of our objectives as an association is to help our members with emergency preparedness. And we have a program called Disaster Ready. And the state challenged us a couple of years ago, and they said, how do you know your nursing home incident command system is working? And we did a deep dive on it last year, and we said, the training works, but the problem is that it's not getting down to those people that need the training. So the administrators get it. They understand the training. They can do incident command. But who's always there? It's the CNAs.
Right.
It's the RNs. It's the DONs, the directors of nursing. And so we create a new program called All Hands on Deck. And it's a training program to be able to come in to train the CNAs on what do you do during an emergency, whether that's an active shooter, a wildfire, anything. A resident has a fall. What do you do? And we've had our third program now. We're kind of in the trial of this, but no, we have our third one coming up in 2 weeks, and it's been so well received. We're thinking about taking it national.
I think it's big. All hands on.
All hands on deck. And it's talking, the thing is that it's working with the CNAs and those folks that are on the ground that instructs them and helps them figure out what they can do in an emergency. Because they're going to be there. And by the way, they know all of the residents intimately.
Exactly.
The administrator can't know everybody. So if they know what the issues are going in, they're going to know how to help with transportation, help with getting them in and out of bed, doing all sorts of things like that. The firefighters aren't going to know that if they have to come in. The paramedics, the EMTs, whoever comes in, no, it's that CNA that knows it. So it's on that, trying to think, for us, it's outside the box, because we just think it inherently happens that, okay, we tell the administrator, it filters down. Well, there's no time anymore to be able to do that. And with a restricted staff, it's tough to do.
Well, it's true. So true. And restricted staff and really turnover that we're all dealing with.
Exactly.
But we need to get it down to that level. I mean, the fact is that every single client, every single resident, every single patient is very different. Everyone's like a snowflake. And you're right. The people that are down on the ground, they, the CNAs, the therapists, they know those residents. They know those patients. They know those clients.
Exactly. That's for sure. And you and we broached the subject of the future over the last couple of segments. And one of the things that we're looking at from our end is, and I see it in our membership is looking at home care. They're looking at your business saying, okay, how can we help, or how can we also make money at looking at home care? Because that's the way the federal government is driving us. They want people to go home. We can send them home, but once they're out of our bed, we don't get paid.
Right.
So how do we get paid to help on the home care side of things? And it's become, I wouldn't say it's a hot topic, but that will be one of the hot topics coming up because of the way the money will flow that way.
It really is, at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's all about the money.
It is.
And it really is. And, when you really
the easiest way to steer people is to throw that carrot out there.
And for us, in our space that we're in home care, there's only 4 payer sources.
Right.
It's private pay, long-term care insurance, VA benefits, and Medicaid.
Right.
And until CMS realizes the work that we do, we are literally the tip of the spear. We see the change of conditions. And when they do change, that's when they need to go over to one of your members.
Right.
To either live out their lives or to get better so they can get back home.
And that will always, our challenge will always be reimbursement. But our additional challenge is, okay, CMS, you want us to move people to home. We don't have a problem with that. Anybody who wants to go home needs to go home. They don't need to be sitting in one of our beds. But the other side of the coin is, how do we take the spectrum of healthcare and open it up so that we can all work together for the benefit of the resident or the patient? I mean, just because we're not in that space doesn't mean that we shouldn't be in that space.
No
It
doubt.
means that we should be helping you on that space, because you'll get paid more, theoretically. We'll get paid additional dollars, theoretically, because we've all done a good thing and moved that person to home and kept them healthy. That's the kicker.
It's interesting, and I'll say this as we wind down. When the Affordable Care Act came out, I had a hospital CEO tell me, I'm going to get paid more money to have less people here.
See, that's just...
And that's what we need to do in the long-term care support space.
Yeah.
Is to pay you and your members more money to get...
To help with the home care.
Yeah, to have less people in there so you can get them back home.
Yes, exactly.
Dave Voepel, it's so great to see you.
It's always good to see you, Bob.
New hip?
Yes.
You are
Be ready to get out there on the links with you shortly, I hope.
Let's definitely do that. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. And Dave, thank you so much for being here in the studio with me.
Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate it.
Take care.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.